we are, another episode, ShiftED podcast coming to you. I have a great guest today, Steve Bollar. He's an author, educator, a thought leader, a podcaster. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Check out his website. I'll include it in the show notes. And he goes by the persona of Stand Tall Steve. And I assume that's because he's tall. But I'm going to let Steve kind of fill in those gaps. So Stand Tall Steve, where did this come from, Steve?
Yeah. First of all, hey man, thanks so much for having me. This is
Oh, it's a
exciting.
pleasure.
I love chatting it up with some great people who knows what it's all about. Yeah, my name is Steve Bollar. I go by Stand Tall Steve, and it is because I am a tall guy. I am 6'7", 6'7", black guy, bald head. I look like a basketball player, but I'm not. I'm not. My name is Steve. I do stand tall. It all kind of works well together. Where this all kind of came about, I really got into speaking and training and consulting and such. And a lot of people who are in speaking, they use their name. Hey, I am Steve Bollar, speaker, or whatever. Chris.
Sure.
So I was thinking I needed a persona. I needed something that can kind of hook some people. And being tall is a major part of my life, specifically the way that I look. I look like someone who should be on the basketball court, but I'm not. And it really defined who I was growing up as a youth, to a teenager, to a young adult, to now even being an adult. And so therefore, that stand tall piece, I was talking with some other speakers and we kind of came up with that persona, but it works well because it connects directly to the message that I share with everyone.
Right. I like the idea too. I think I heard you mention this, that because of your height also, you stand out, but you can see over everything, kind of that leadership eye on the prize of keeping all the eggs together there. I really like that. That's really cool.
It's a major piece of what I say. Like when I go out and I speak, I talk about leadership specifically. I talk about K-12 schools. That's my main area. Culture and climate, leadership development, idea development. So as it relates to leadership, I connect the world of tall people to the world of leadership. And number one, tall people, we don't blend in. Like we don't blend in. You look into a crowd, we pop out right away. You can't miss us. Same thing with leaders. It's not your job to blend in. And I say that to leaders. A lot of times leaders are like, well, I'm just like everybody else. No, that's why you're a leader. Yes, you connect with other people, you feel welcome, but there's a reason why you stand out. And so therefore you need to embrace that. There was a time when I was younger where it would bother me greatly that I stood out so much. No, that's my job. The job is to stand out. Other thing about leaders is with tall people, we have a different view of the world, right? Like, just like you said, we're in a crowd, we could see everything, like, other people. And I always give the example, how many people have been in a crowd with a tall friend, right? And what do? You put your tall friend to the front, you grab their hand or their shoulder, you say, go, and off they go, and they pull you through. That's because they have a different view. They can see the vision, they can see where it is that you need to go. They can plan things out. Same thing with leadership. With leaders, you have to have that vision. A vision is a picture of future success, a compelling picture of future success, a positive picture of future success. So you have that vision and you're taking everybody where they need to go. You're sharing the vision with them and moving them forward. And the last thing about being tall and leadership is I say that, tall people, we don't fit. We don't fit in the world. I don't fit in cars, airplanes, doorways, ceiling fans, shower heads, spider webs. Like these are all major issues in the world of tall people. We don't fit. But here's the thing: even though we don't fit, do we give up? No, we can't give up. Like I travel all over the world because I work with schools all over the place, and sometimes I have to get into tiny little airplanes. I almost on my hands and knees try to get to my seat. I don't walk up to the plane and go, you know what? It's really small. I'm not going to go. No, suck it up, Buttercup. Let's go. It's a little uncomfortable, but you got to make it work. Same thing with leadership. It's not always going to work. It's not always going to fit. You're going to have to be uncomfortable sometimes. But guess what? Suck it up, Buttercup. Let's go. That's the role. So that's how I connect the world of tall people to leadership, to kind of give a different perspective and an understanding. Like, you know what? Yeah, there's some personal responsibility. I'm not supposed to always blend in with everyone else. I do have to have a vision of where it is I'm going and take people there. And
Right.
it's going to be tough and uncomfortable at times, but this is the role that I have.
Amazing. Amazing. I
Mhm.
love it. I love it. I think it just works so well too. I love how you married those two together. Um,
Mhm.
so well. I always like to kind of start off, Steve, with can you give me some tipping points that happened in your career so far that kind of brought you to where you are now?
Mm.
Do you have some of those stories that a
Yeah.
moment or an encounter or that kind of changed your trajectory of your career?
My career, my life, yeah, everything. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there is a lot of different ones. I mean, truthfully, if you want to go way back, it was eighth grade.
Mm,
We talk about career and life and everything. Eighth
right.
grade was the year that everything went nuts for me.
Mm,
At the beginning of eighth grade, I was 5'8". At the end of eighth grade, I was 6'2".
well,
5'8", 6'2". So that's 7 inches.
that's a lot of
Uh,
growth.
yeah, that's a lot of growth in one year. Now, usually when kids go through their growth spurt, they get what, 3, 2, 3,
Sure.
maybe 4 inches. I had 7. It hurt. It was rough.
Oh,
So I mean, I had big feet. I was tripping over myself. My knees hurt. My legs hurt. My back hurt. My arms hurt.
mm,
I had chest pains because my chest was always hurting. I had to wear like a Holter monitor. My parents took me to the doctor.
wow.
I was hunched over. You ever see someone who's hunched over doesn't stand up straight?
Mm,
Because I was embarrassed of how tall I was and how much I stood out from everyone around me. So eighth grade was a rough year for me.
yeah.
So I was in school and I was walking home from school one day. I was walking home with a friend of mine. Her name was Danielle. So Danielle lived over on 7th Street. I lived over on 9th Street. And so as we get to 7th Street, Danielle, she told me to stay still. And I'm like, what's going on? She said, just stay there. She walked behind me. She put her hand on my shoulder and then she balled up her fist and punched me in the middle of my back. And I was like,
Wow.
what is wrong with you and everything? But of course, if
Jeez.
you hold the shoulder, punch in the back, what happens? You arch your back up.
Right.
And as I said, I was hunched over so much. And she
Mm,
said to me, she said, Steve, you're a tall person. Stop trying to be small. Staying tall.
mm, bang.
That's when it clicked.
Mm,
That's when I was like, oh my goodness, what in the world am I doing? What?
mm,
I mean, that moment, I remember it so clear. Those moments in life that you
yeah,
remember it crystal
totally.
clear.
You
That
remember
was
the
one of those
smell,
moments.
the
Yeah, the
temperature,
smell, the
the
temperature.
everything.
Yes,
Totally.
it was that
Totally.
moment. And I
Wow.
stood there and I looked at her like, yes,
Mm,
why in the world am I doing this? Now, let me explain. Let me explain my family. All right. Let me talk about my
yep.
family real quick.
Yep.
My father's 6'6". My mom's 5'10". My brother's 6'6". My sister's 5'10". My grandfather, 6'10". Like he's a giant. I'm going to be tall, bro.
There was
I
no
mean,
getting away from that. That was
no
just
getting
like
away from this.
sealed.
But here I am
Mm,
trying to fight it.
right.
And it took her punching me in my back for me to realize this.
Mm,
So at that moment, I kind of changed the way that I carried myself. It was instantaneous confidence in who it is that I was, embracing who I am. And
right.
that kind of changed. Now, granted, I didn't know a ton about leadership and
Sure.
all the whole world and everything. I mean, I was student body president and stuff like that, young
Sure.
leader, but
Right.
that changed my overall persona of so much. So
Wow.
that
Like
was
the seed
one.
was planted right there, Steve,
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
moment. Like
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That's
The seed
such a
was
great
planted
story.
right there, and that kind
Wow.
of changed that whole piece of who I am and what I am.
Right,
Hmm.
right. And
Yeah.
you talk about change, right? And I really feel like that story you just said has a lot to do with mindset, right? Like changing the way you see things,
Yes. Yeah.
from something very fixed, this is who I am, it's all, I have no control over it, to I have power, I can do stuff.
Hmm.
Um, how do you develop a mindset? How do you encourage educators, in your leadership roles to have that capacity or to be aware of that capacity? Because I do believe some teachers just believe, no, this is who
Yeah.
I am. I don't learn anymore. I can't do anything else. This is who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
In reality, we know that that's not the case. Can you expand on that a little bit of like, how do you get
Yeah.
those mindsets more instilled into the openness of we could do anything we want?
We can make this happen. Now, there are
That's it.
parameters, obviously, that we have in schools, but you're right. It's a mindset. You can work within those parameters to make things possible. One
Right.
of the things I talk pretty heavily on, and actually, no, I don't talk heavily on, I hit it and I leave it where it is, but it changes everybody's mindset and perception quickly, is I say to them, are you at compliance or commitment? Are you at compliance or commitment? Compliance. Schools are very compliance-based organizations, right? We have
Right.
outlines, we have rules, we have expectations. And so a lot of educators roll and work within the compliance mindset.
Mm.
This is what you tell me to do. This is what I will do.
Right.
As opposed to being in a commitment mindset.
Mm.
So compliance, you're talking about rules, laws, policies, all those things. Commitment mindset, you're thinking of, uh, whatever it takes.
Mm.
Possibilities are endless. I can do this. What's another way of thinking about this? Because when you're committed to something, you'll go above and beyond. Your whole mindset shifts like, well, I'm committed to these kids. I'm committed to my profession. I'm committed to this community. And if I'm committed to it, I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to keep trying things differently. Whereas you're compliant, you're like, okay, tell me what you need me to do. I'll do that. I've got my ducks in a row. And then when you're done putting the ducks in a row that they tell you to, well, I did what you told me to do. Well, your kids
Mm.
aren't successful. I told you, I did what you told me to do.
Right. Right.
I've yet to see any school, any district, any classroom, any teacher be outrageously successful just being compliant.
Mm.
Just compliant?
Mm.
Just compliant? That's all you got? Compliant? If you're just being, because to me, compliance is accomplishment, it's a lower level of accomplishment. So if you want to be more or get better outcomes, feel good about yourself, you can't just be compliant. You got to be committed. And when
Right.
you're committed, now you're going to get some things. So
Mm.
that's the first thing that I do. I make sure that educators understand what that's about. The second thing I do is when I said I talk about culture, climate, leadership, and ideas,
Mhm.
is I like to share ideas. I share so many ideas. One of my books that I have is called Ideas, 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 which is a ton of different ideas. When people hear different types of ideas, different ways of thinking, then they realize the possibilities. Oh, you could do that? Oh,
Mm.
that's possible? Oh, someone else
Mm.
tried it? Oh, you so once they realize that
Mm.
it can be done, other
Right.
people have tried it differently. It's almost like giving them a subliminal permission to step into the commitment realm, to step
Right.
into the idea realm. It's a
Right.
lot of times the teachers, they just need permission to do so. They've been stuck
Right.
in compliance so long, they don't have the permission. And the permission comes when they see and look beyond their walls and hear about other ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I do think our institution is very, right and wrong. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
you got the
Black and
right
white.
answer, you got the wrong answer, right? Like
Mhm.
that's our foundational practice, really, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Testing, info, test.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I love what you're saying too, Steve. Like the mindset too of, and we talked a little bit about this before we hopped on here, where you were talking about climate and culture. And I
Mm-hmm.
found that was when I was looking through your materials and your books, and
Yeah.
like it seems like that's at the forefront of a lot of what you talk about. Is could you elaborate on that? Like
Yeah.
climate and culture, what is that in a school, and how can
Not
we influence it?
Absolutely. Climate and culture, it's whew, it is the bedrock
Mm.
of everything that can take place within any organization, especially a school. And if you're not purposeful in crafting the culture and climate, you're just what are you doing? What are you
Mm.
doing? Come on, you
Right.
got to be purposeful in it. And the thing is, a lot of people don't know what to do to be purposeful with it. So let's break everything down first to begin with.
Mhm.
So the anchor to culture and climate is clearly identifying what you respect and value. What is it that you collectively, everyone, respect and value? I go to schools a lot and I say to them, if I was to talk to everyone in this building, all the teachers, aides, administration, support staff, students, parents, and ask them, hey, what do we respect? What do you respect and value in this organization? Would
Mm.
everyone say the same thing?
Mm.
Nope. Nope. I've yet to find any school that says, yeah, we all say the exact same thing about respect and value. So that's the first step is to find out what do we collectively respect and value. And there's many different ways you can go about doing that. So let's say that you work together within your organization and you come up with teamwork, integrity, and accountability. All right. So we're going to go with those three things. We all collectively respect and value teamwork, integrity, and accountability. So let's go to, and that's going to be our anchor. So let's go to climate. What is climate? Climate is the emotional state people feel when they enter a space. So how do they feel when they walk into the school? How do they feel when they walk into a classroom? What, you know, it's the mood, it's the feeling, right, of how they feel. That's why we call the weather outside the climate. You walk out, you feel it. There's an emotion. We're emotional creatures. That's what climate is. Now, climate fluctuates, right?
Yep.
It changes month to month, week to week,
day to day sometimes.
day to day, minute to minute, second to second sometimes, right? Like I always tell people, the climate at the beginning of the school year is different than the climate before testing, right? Yes,
Totally.
it just is a different climate.
Yep.
I could walk into one classroom, feels great. Walk into another classroom, feels bad. That's climate. So when you think of climate, it kind of fluctuates. Sometimes it's close to what you say you respect and value. Sometimes it's not.
Right.
So that's climate. Now there's culture. What is culture? Culture is really, it's just a fancy word for traditions. That's what culture really is. Culture is the culmination of tradition and practices that happen within a school. That's what culture is. So let's say that, let's say you're going to go on holiday, you're going on vacation, and you say, oh, I'm going to go to this other country. It's going to be so wonderful. I want to get immersed into the culture. You want to get immersed into the traditional things that country does. It's traditional things. Same thing in a school. What traditional things are happening that create the culture? Now, there are two different types of culture. There's your operational culture, and then there's your behavioral culture. Your operational culture, that one, that's how you operate. How do you traditionally operate? How do kids come in the building? How do they move in the hallways? How do you set up a meeting? How do you set up scheduling? How do you, run the prom? I mean, how do you do all the things routinely in a classroom? How do kids come in a classroom? How do they turn in homework? How do you have them raise hands? I mean, those are your operational culture, tradition. The second kind of culture is your behavioral culture. I mean, yes, behavioral culture. How do people traditionally behave? How do they talk to each other? How much is tolerated, right? How do students talk to students? How do students talk to teachers? How do teachers talk to students? How do students talk to administrators? How do administrators talk to students? How do administrators talk to teachers? How do teachers, like, how do everybody interact with each other traditionally over time? Okay, we have all of our parts. So let's do an imagine. I know everybody's listening, but I want you to imagine what it is that I'm saying to you. So let's say we have this diagram. In the middle of this diagram is what you say you respect and value. Teamwork, integrity, accountability. Those are the anchors. Now, wrapped around those three words, waving up and down, is the climate, right? Because we know sometimes it's close to it, sometimes it's not close to it. It bounces around. Then let's think about two parallel lines, horizontal parallel lines, one above, one below. The one above is your behavioral culture. The one below is your operational culture. So here's the thing. Our goal is to get the climate to feel good because we're emotional creatures. It's all about that climate. We want to feel good regularly. In order to get that climate to be stable, close to what we respect and value, you have to work on the culture, right? That culture, that behavioral culture and your operational culture have to be in alignment with teamwork, integrity, and accountability. Your operations isn't in alignment with teamwork, integrity, and accountability. Hold people accountable to that. Are the behaviors in line with teamwork, integrity, and accountability? And when they are, that crazy wavy line of climate, it shrinks down. It shrinks down closer to what it is you respect and value. And when your climate, the emotions are connected to what you respect and value, teamwork, integrity, and accountability, people are happy. Students are happy. Teachers are happy. Communities are happy. Administrators are happier. Now, it's still going to wave, that climate, but it won't be big swells like, oh, we're out of control. The morale is bad. Hold people accountable. And it leans on the leadership. It leans on the teachers to do it to each other. And eventually it trickles down to the students where they're doing it to each other, where they're holding each other accountable to this is who we are. We're about teamwork, integrity, and accountability, or whatever the three words that you're going to anchor it to.
Right. Right.
So I know that's kind of a long roundabout way, but that's what climate and culture really is. And it's possible. It is totally doable to make a school organization wrap around what you respect and value.
Absolutely. And I'll include that on the post, that
Yeah.
visual, so that people can
Okay.
see
Yeah.
it.
I'll make sure you
Because I
have it.
love that visual too. I saw it in one of your talks, and it makes so much sense. But the words you just put to it, it's just like, yes, that makes so
Mhm.
much.
There you go.
Steve, what about, so leadership, like here in Quebec anyway,
Mhm.
we have a tendency of having principles turnover,
Yeah.
relatively short, usually five handful of years. How do schools continue that climate and culture that they would have established with another leader? How do they
Mhm.
transfer that over? I guess what I'm trying to get at is, how does a principal gauge the climate and culture of a school when they're first coming in, so that
Mhm.
you're aware of and not stepping on toes where you're like, I'm implementing this new cultural
Yeah. Yeah.
aspect, or this climate is, we're going to change. Like, what kind of advice do you give to principals that are new to a school that might come into a really, great culture, great climate, or the opposite? What
Yeah.
are some of those tips and tricks or strategies that you offer up to support those new principals in schools?
Yeah. Exactly. Like I said, I do climate culture leadership development
Right.
and yeah, all those things. Well, so I do a lot of coaching of administrators, and I
Mm,
get a good fair share of new building principles. The number one thing I say to building principles is, or any leader that's coming into a school, and this is pretty common. It's like you gotta listen.
mm,
You gotta listen, listen, listen. Yes, there are times you're gonna have to make some decisions. That's your job. All right, put
sure.
out fires, list, all those things. But the more that you can listen, the better. When you
Mm,
get in there, you have to interview those teachers. Yes, you did the whole interview in order to get the position.
right.
Now it's your turn to interview those teachers.
Mm,
And the interview of the teachers is, what do you do? How long have you been here? What things do you like most about this school?
mm,
You can touch on some things that need to be improved, all right, because you don't want it to turn into a you know what kind of thing. They're in there
right.
complaining about all the different things.
Right.
Touch on it, but what is it that you love about this school? What are some great things that you saw coming up that may need to change, coming up that you want to keep going?
Mm,
Now, don't just get this information and hold it separate. Find the connections between them.
mm,
You're going to find out some good information about what good things of the culture that everybody respects and values.
right.
Okay, here we go. Now I kind
Mm,
of have a better understanding of what that is. The
mm,
second thing I tell a lot of new administrators is you need to over communicate. Over communicate.
okay.
A lot of times they come in and they get into the world of administrivia. And in the world of administrivia, you keep things to yourself and you have to be the leader of administrivia. And it's like, cut it out, cut it out. You
Right.
need to over communicate because as much as you're trying to get the integrity and the understanding of your staff, they're trying to do the same thing to you. And
Mm,
the best way for them to do that is to understand how you make decisions, how you are deciding things, what your thought process is. So
right.
email more than what you usually would, talk more than you usually would, even if you're a talker, talk more than you usually would. I always say to them, specifically the first 6 months. Now we
Mm,
know school district, the schools they run good 10 months or plus whatever.
yep.
First 6 months, you better over communicate. Hey, I was thinking about XYZ, and these are some of the thoughts I have. I'll give you my answer soon. Even
Mm,
if you don't have the answer, just say this is
mm,
some of your thought process. Because
mm,
what's going to happen is people are going to see your thought process. They're going to say, okay, I see how she uh, makes decisions. Sometimes they say, you know what? I'm now empowered to come in and give some of my thought to you.
right.
Oh, wonderful. Now you're developing a dialogue. All right. Third thing I tell administrators is you have to do the office door practice, which I call the office door practice. What that means is you have to protect your time as an administrator to be able to get work done, but you also need to have opportunities for people to communicate well with you.
Mm,
So therefore, you need to tell your staff, all right, my door, because you always say, oh, it's an open door policy. No, no, don't do that. No, come on, let's be real.
right.
You have 3 stages for your door. If my door is wide open, come on in. Knock on the door. Hey, you got a minute? Come on. If my door is halfway open, check with the secretary. See what's
Mm,
going on first. If my door's shut, Don't get upset. My door's shut.
Right.
Three stages of the door. This way they understand and respect your time, where you
Right.
are. Now, I know there's a lot of administrators now, they get a cart and they're rolling all around the hallways and they're in and out of classrooms constantly. That's wonderful. But at certain times, you need to go to your office, y'all. Okay. So use that as well. And that empowers them as well. The last thing, which I make sure every administrator, not just new, but everybody knows, is the 5 levels of decision making. Because you need to include people for decisions, but sometimes you don't know which level or how to bring them in. So very quickly, 5 levels of decision making. Level 1 decision making is you, the administrator, make the decision, no input from anybody else. Usually this is reserved for emergency situations. Something's coming up. Maybe it's morning arrival at an elementary school. A hailstorm comes through or bag, I don't have time. You go over there, get the kids there, keep the kids on the bus. You guys, just boom. Level 1 decision, you make it quick, you do it. Level 2 decision making is you're the leader, you're going to make a decision, but I'm going to check with other people first. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I might use your input, I might not, but I'm checking in. I want to see what other people think before I make my decision.
Right.
Level 3, we're going to make the decision together. My input is no bigger than anybody else. This is when you have like a committee, you raise hands, whatever it is. Equal amount of decision making taking place here. Level 4, I'm the leader. Now I'm going to let you, somebody else, make the decision after I, the leader, give you my input first. So we have something that's going on here. Remember this, don't forget this, and here's some guidelines for this. Go. Now they go and make the decision. Keep me informed in case things don't work out right. But now I'm empowering others now that I've given you the information. Level 5, this is when other people make the decision. Me as the leader, I have nothing to do with it. Go. You got it. You're empowered. You're fully empowered. You know the vision, the mission, the goals. You know it all. Go for it. Let me know whenever you need to.
Right. And those are various levels, Steve, too, of shared leadership. You're trying to empower your people, but still the buck stops with you as the administrator.
Yes. And a lot of times leaders don't have that understanding. And so when they start thinking, okay, this is a level 2 situation. Oh, I can do a level 4 situation. Oh, I can, but it helps guide their minds to be able to do better. So those are the top 4 things that I make sure every new leader does. And in turn, anchoring it to what you respect and value moves the climate and culture better.
Amazing. Beautiful full circle here, Steve, in 25 minutes. Just unbelievable. I so appreciate you coming on and sharing these thoughts. I think that these kinds of conversations need to happen more with our schools. And I think that you've thrown a ton of seeds out here that will surely grow with the people that listen. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and sharing these thoughts with us.
You're welcome so much, Chris. I enjoy this immensely. I love K-12 education, and it's my heart, and I just want all schools to be better. They can do it. You can do it.
Well, I feel your passion, and thanks again. And I wish you all the best too in your day and weeks and the rest of the school year. And I hope one day we talk again, Steve. This has been such a pleasure to welcome you. And I have so many other questions, but I'm respecting our time. So
not a problem. Hey, bring me back. We can come back and do a part 2 or something like that. I got a lot of things. The summer's coming up. I got a lot of speaking engagements. I'm all over the place. Got a new book that's coming out that came out. It's called Just Do This. Go to Amazon, check it out. It's an educator's guide to improving climate and culture. So I'm a busy guy, but we always have time for each other, Chris. This is great.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Steve. All the best.